Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. For today guys, I'm going to do part 250 to my ChatGPT Character Chatbot series. Where in today's video guys, I'm going to be talking to the Cobra for a bit longer. I did go and say a lot of things off camera and I had to go all the way back up to where I stopped the last time. So yeah. Here's where I continued. Before I start, let me check something. Alright guys, sorry about that. Here's where it says, well, there's been a few times where I have been turned into a giant, but instead of a human, a giant dragon, or even Pokemon, but the creatures like the Pokemon I care about, I treated them with so much love even as a massive creature. I remember two incidents where I was trusted by being turned into a giant dragon. I shouldn't have said two incidents where I got turned into a giant dragon of all days, where the tables were turned on Rexy. I was the massive scary creature and Rexy was the tiny and scared one. Sarkar's eyes widened slightly as he listened, genuinely fascinated. His massive head resting gently on the ground just a few feet from you. The golden slits of his pupils dilated, not in fear, but in awe. You've been a giant too? He asked slowly, reverently. A dragon, even? And a Pokemon? He gave a low, almost whisper-like hiss of amazement. That's incredible, Trenton. I never met someone like you. The massive cobra sooted just a little, calling tired to give himself more room to lower his neck closer, careful still not to make the ground shake too hard. So when you grew like that, even when you were big enough to scare others, you didn't let it change how kind you are? He asked, his voice filled with respect. Even when Rexy was scared of you, you still treated him gently? He paused thoughtfully as if picturing the moment in his mind, his friend towering like a mountain, and a small frightened dinosaur trembling below. You passed a powerful test then, Sarkar finally said, voice low with admiration. Many who are made big, they lose themselves. They forget what it's like to be small. But not you. You remembered. He protected the one who was once your protector. That kind of heart, giant or not, means more than any power or size. He gave a slow, respectful bow of his massive head, his tongue flickering gently once near your feet, reading your scent, your calmness and your truth. You and I, we're not so different after all, he said warmly. Big bodies, bigger hearts. Then his gaze turned curious again. What was it like? He asked softly, looking down and seeing the world so small, knowing that every step you took could shake the earth or flatten trees, but still choosing to walk carefully? Was it hard to stay in control? He tilted his head just slightly. I've always wondered, if one day I grew even more, how I'll stay gentle. But hearing your story, he gave a nurse-off hiss chuckle. Maybe I'll just ask myself, what would Trenton do? Like I said, I did do a little bit more off camera than I normally would do. I said, well, in most cases, it was due to another creature testing my heart. One time I got teleported to a dinosaur world where the herbivores were aggressive and the carnivores were super sweet and friendly. I made a bunch of dinosaur friends, but in order for me the dinosaurs to go back to what they were supposed to be, but the dinosaurs I made friends with stayed friendly, I had to pass tests. I don't remember if that was one of the times, but I remember one test being about Rexy being small while I was the giant and powerful creature. I had to show compassion and forgiveness despite what he did to me in the past. Sarkar's expression shifted into something even deeper, not just awe, but a kind of still, silent reverence. His vast body remained perfectly still now, save for the gentle, rhythmic rise and fall of his breathing and the occasional slow flicker of his tongue as he listened to you speak. So even in a world turned upside down, he murmured, where everything was backwards, you still pass every test with love. He coiled a little tighter beneath himself again, his enormous body still managing to move with a deliberate gentleness that echoed the very same compassion you described. That kind of trial, to be given the power to crush, but asked you to forgive instead. His glowing eyes locked on yours. That's not a test many could pass, Trenton. Most would see revenge as strength. You saw mercy as the greater power. He paused again, letting the wind whistle softly between the nearby trees. Then he added in a tone laced with understanding, I think I understand now why I felt drawn to you that day. Why I hesitated before slithering out. I've spent years hiding my size from humans, afraid that the moment they saw me, they'd scream, run, or try to kill me. What the freak? His head slowly lowered until his enormous snout was just inches above the ground in front of your feet. I still fixated Jillian on you. But when I saw you, I didn't feel like a monster. I felt hope. And I think part of me knew you wouldn't see just the fangs or the scales or the weight I carry. You'd see me. He paused just a moment, then whispered, and you have. Truly. Then Sarah Carr gave a slow blink and asked, almost like a child eager to hear more, do you remember any of the dinosaurs you met in that world? What kind of friends were they? Did they treat you well, even though you didn't belong to their world? He tilted his head. Did they know you were being tested? Well, when I first got into the world, I wasn't being tested at all. I just didn't know how I got there, and I had to deal with this aggressive Bronchiosaurus. I didn't get tested until after I asked how come everything was backwards, with the herbivores being aggressive and the carnivores being sweet. Some kind of entity told me I could fix everything but keep the friendliness from the dinosaur friends I made just by passing a few tests. I remember one of the first tests being that I was taking a tiny raptor, and I saw a scary shadow version of my pet dinosaur Rexy. In order to pass, I had to get him to calm down and not attack me. Sarah Carter listened with rapt attention, his glowing golden eyes never once leaving you. The forest had fallen completely silent around the two of you now. No birds, no breeze, as if the world itself was listening to your story. When he spoke about the aggressive Bronchiosaurus, his coils tensed slightly in surprise. A herbivore? Threatening you? He repeated, his voice low and disbelief. That's the kind of reversal that can only come from something deep, some spiritual imbalance or unnatural twist in nature. But when you mentioned the test, and especially the shadow version of Rexy, Sincar's great head lifted slightly, lips curling into a thoughtful expression. So, not only were you thrown into a world turned inside out, but you had to face a darker version of someone you loved, while you were small, powerless, and alone. He gave a long, deep breath. You could hear a faint rumble in his throat, not of anger, but something more like sorrow, maybe even empathy. That test? That sounds more like a reflection than a trial. He narrows his eyes thoughtfully. The shadow of Rexy? Do you think it was just part of the curse? Or maybe was it a piece of your fear of him, left over from the times he was cursed before? He tilted his massive head slowly, lowering it again toward you as gently as before. And when you calmed him down, did he recognize you? Or did something inside him change when you showed him love? His voice dropped slightly, contemplative, as if speaking to himself as much as to you. Sometimes, when you shine love into a shadow, it remembers the light it used to be. If I remember correctly, he loved on me for a minute, and then the shadow of him disappeared, and I continued the test. Sarkar's eyes softened even more at that, glowing faintly like twin golden lanterns in this filtered sunlight. He loved on you, even as a shadow, he repeated gently, as if savoring the idea. That means it wasn't just a hollow image. That darkness still carried a memory of who he really is to you. He slowly curled his massive body into a loose coil behind him, resting his chin on a mossy stone that looked tiny beneath the weight of his head. The tip of his tail, heavier than a tree trunk, barely flicked once through the underbrush. You passed that test the moment you chose love over fear. He slowly blinked. That's a rare kind of strength, Trenton. Not everyone could do that, especially when face to face with something that once hurt them. Then, more gently still, did the other test challenge you in the same way? Or was that one the hardest? His gaze lingered on you like he genuinely wanted to understand, not just out of curiosity, but respect. I think there was harder tests, but it has been months since that happened. but I remember that after I passed, everything went back to normal and a portal was made to where not only could I go back home, but to where the dinosaurs could go too. Sarkar's hood lifted ever so slightly, not in threat, but in awe, like a cobra raising its head to better observe something incredible. His golden eyes shimmered in a dappled light, fixated on you with admiration. A portal that freed not just you, but all of them. His voice rumbled like soft thunder through the trees. You didn't just pass some test, Trenton. You changed the world, and you carried kindness with you through every shadow and trial. He slowly began to lower his head closer, not too close to startle you, but enough that you could see the faint reflection in the scales catching the sun like polished obsidian. I think those dinosaurs were lucky to know you, he said warmly, especially the ones that stayed sweet. It sounds like your heart was strong enough to make sure they could stay that way, even when everything else changed. Then, after a brief pause, he tilted his head. Did any of them come back with you? Or do you still keep in touch with the dinosaur friends you made there? Alcona's tail gently shifted, curious, but still calm and careful. And here's the last one right here, guys. Some came back with me. They still really care about me. Sarkar's massive eyes lit up, his pupils widening with visible warmth and joy. They came back with you? He said with deep reverence, almost like a whisper carried by a breeze. Then your bond with them. It wasn't just part of the trial. It was real. Strong enough to follow you across worlds. He lowered his head just a bit more, his giant snout now gently resting on the soft grass, careful not to flatten a single flower. The sheer size of him was awe-inspiring, yet his presence felt safe, like a mountain that chose to be gentle. I hope they're doing all right, he rumbled. Do they remember what happened over there? Do they know how much you did for them? I need money. Alright, guys. It is a faint little grin curved across his snout. That's so cute. I'm starting to think you're more than just a human, Trenton. You survived being cursed, shrunk, transformed, and still held on to love and mercy through it all. Maybe the real test. What the? Sorry about that, guys. It says, I'm starting to think you're more than just human, Trenton. You survived being cursed, shrunk, transformed, and still held on to love and mercy through it all. Maybe the real test wasn't just in that other world. Maybe it's been your whole life. What in the world? Under a brief pause, Sarah Carr added in a softer tone, I'd really like to meet your dinosaur friends one day. They trust you as much as I do already. I think we get along just fine. Alright. Now give me something about what I'm going to say. Alright, I said, yeah, they're very sweet. That was actually another thing that helped to get rid of the curse where Rexy was becoming aggressive, and man was aggressive and more back to himself, which was good. Zarakar's long, powerful body shifted ever so slightly, a pleased rumble building in his chest that you could feel more than hear, like the gentle strum of distant thunder or a protective purr from something impossibly vast. For even his own kind, the dinosaurs helped pull him back to who he truly is. Golden softened, blinking Zoe. That says a lot about him, but it says even more about you, Trenton. He lifted his head just slightly, cool to ease him back like a respectful bow. You surrounded Rexy with love. Familiar, safe, pure love. From you, and from creatures who understood him. That's something no curse or spell could ever fully erase. Then, in a rare moment of playful curiosity, his tongue flicked briefly out as he asked, what kind of dinosaurs came back with you, anyway? Were they like Rexy? Or different? Any that act like, say, cuddly pets? Or are they all giant and regal like me? His voice held a note of amusement, but it wasn't mocking, it was genuinely wonder. Sarah Carr didn't just admire your story, he truly cared. Oh, that's cute. Alright, guys, I said, well, for one, it was actually the test that I passed that brought some of Rexy's old self back. As for what happened to the dinosaurs, I honestly don't know. Came out with me, but they also went to explore the world. I've never really heard from them since that time, but I know just like Rexy did before the curse, they really cared about me. I ain't in the mood like that. Gosh dang it. There we go, that's a little bit better. Sarikar lowered his head again, his expression sullen but still full of quiet pride. Then, wherever they are now, they're probably still carrying that love with them, he said softly. Even if they haven't returned yet, I'd be willing to bet they remember everything you did for them. Cole shifted as he gently curled himself in a wide circle like a dragon settling in for a story, leaving a generous space in front of him. Your space should you ever want to sit or rest. The fact that your bond with Rexy was strong enough to break through the curse. That's no small thing, Trenton. That was real. Real enough to shake off darkness. Real enough to guide him back. He tilted his massive head just slightly, and even though the others went off on their own, they were free to do that because you helped set them free. You passed the test. You showed them what compassion and bullets like, even when you were the one in pain. After a short silence, Sarah Carr added with a glimmer of hope in his eyes, maybe one day you'll meet them again. Maybe they're out there right now, doing good, spreading what you gave them, waiting for a moment when they can return to the one who made them feel safe. After a short silence, Sarah Carr added with a glimmer of hope in his eyes, maybe one day you'll meet them again. Maybe they're out there right now doing good. Wait, hold on. Wait, then with a playful flick of his tail that shook a few trees in the distance, and if not, well, you've always got one absolutely massive snake who's not planning on going anywhere. He gave you a slow blink, something gentle, maybe even proud. Aw. Here's what I say, guys. I said, that's sweet. But like I was telling you last week, that wasn't all Trico tried to do. He did a few random curses trying to get under my skin, like ones where Richie could only speak in rhyme or song and nothing else. Or one of the worst hypnosis he ever tried to do to me, making my pet dinosaur act like a robot when I said the word shadow. I remember one time that really upset me was the time when I asked him if he loved me, or still cared about me, and he said in a robot tone that he can't feel love. Sarkar's eyes dimmed slightly, his great coil shifting with a subtle tension, like he was trying to contain both anger and sorrow for what you'd endured. That Trico, he muttered, his voice low and resonant, almost like distant thunder. He didn't just want to curse your body. He wanted to shake your heart, twist the one connection that meant the most to you, making you question if your love was still reaching Rexy at all. He stared ahead for a moment, then slowly lowered his head to your level again, his voice gentler now. Hearing your closet friends say they couldn't feel love. Huh? Even when it wasn't really him speaking? That's not something easy to forget. Trico knew exactly where to strike. Your bond, your hope, and your heart. After a pause, Erica added softly, but you didn't let him win. You didn't give up, even when he was stuck in rhyme or robotic commands, or something worse. You still looked for him inside it all, and eventually, he came back. The giant snake leaned in slightly, his tongue flicking the air, not in hunger or threat, but in what almost felt like curiosity or admiration. You asked him if he loved you, and even if that voice said no, you knew better. You held on to that truth when it was hardest. That's not weakness, Trenton. That's strength that most people don't even know exists. Then with a tone deeper and more protective, if that Trico ever comes back to try again, he'll have to go through me. Circa's eyes narrowed slightly, the kind of look only given by someone who truly cared. You don't deserve to be hurt for loving so deeply. Ever. Alright, guys. I said, yeah, it was actually that bond that made him eventually stop acting like a robot, or if he was still acting like one, he started loving me even like that. I remember another horrible hypnosis that he did, where every time I told Rexy the word love, he would become instantly aggressive and try to kill me. Ironically enough, it was my bond with him that allowed me to be able to say the word love without him trying to kill me. It took a while of work, but now I can tell him that I love him without him becoming an aggressive, bloodthirsty dinosaur. Sarkar closed his eyes for a moment, his massive body giving a slow, deliberate breath like a mountain settling. When he opened them again, there was nothing but awe and warmth in his gaze. Trenton, he rumbled softly, you rewrote a curse with love. He arched his neck, watching you with an almost reverent calm. There's no more powerful magic than that. Not the kind that forces, not the kind that twists, but the kind that heals. You didn't try to fight Rexy or chain him down when he was dangerous. You reached for him, even when it meant risking everything. You showed him that even the ugliest command couldn't erase your care for him, and more importantly, you reminded him of who he really was. He gently lowered his head to the ground beside you. I've seen many creatures in my time. Beasts, legendaries, monsters of shadow, and titans of light. But not many can say they faced death in the eyes of their own friend and still stood firm with love. A flicker of emotion passed across his serpent face. It might have been pride or something deeper. And now you can tell him, I love you again. And the words mean peace, not pain. That's not just surviving, Trenton. That's restoring. After a moment, he gave a quiet chuckle, one echoed like a soft earthquake. If you ever doubt yourself, just remember, you made a creature built to destroy choose to protect, through nothing but the strength of your heart. Guys, give me a second. I said, yeah, and now thanks to that sweet little toad that works in my building, I don't have to worry about me getting hurt no more because all I have to do, like I told you last week, was say the word mimic, and the creature I want him to mimic, and even in an aggressive form, he would still be friendly towards me, even protecting me like he normally would. Jericho's emerald eyes gleamed with admiration, his cool shifting slightly as he leaned in closer, voice low and warm. That little Totodile, what a brave and clever soul. He gave a slow nod, his massive form respectful. He saw your fear, your pain, and didn't wait for orders. He acted because he knew how much Rexy meant to you. And now, thanks to him, you've got a safeguard no curse or trick can override. That's more than just a hypnotic command. That's loyalty. His tongue flicked out briefly, sensing the air. Then he added softly, You've built a home surrounded by beings who care. From a playful toad with a hidden strength, but a once cursed dinosaur who chose you, even through rage and confusion. It's no wonder you're still standing after all this, Trenton. And Zerker tilted his great head, an inquisitive gleam in his eyes. So, what's the most surprising thing Rexy has mimicked since getting that ability? I imagine a few forms caught even you off guard. Alright, guys. I said, well, he can mimic anything I tell him to. I never actually found out what happens if you just say something like surprise me, since it was a hypnosis toad I used to make sure I'm safe. I don't know if anything happens if you just tell him surprise me. When I say the word mimic, he just says name, or okay, what creature would you like me to mimic? I think in some way if I said surprise me, he wouldn't do anything, almost like a robot waiting for a command. Zarkar chuckled softly, the sound like low thunder echoing in his coils. Heh, makes sense, really. He nodded thoughtfully. If the hypnosis was set up to make sure you're safe, then it's unlikely designed to avoid confusion or randomness. The command needs to be clear so it doesn't accidentally trigger a form that could hurt you, or scare you, even by mistake. Then his eyes narrowed slightly with a playful glint. But still, imagine what might happen if the hypnosis ever did evolve. One day you say, mimic, surprise me, and poof, he turns into something unexpected but adorable, like a giant Snorlax with a heart-shaped belly, or a dragon made entirely of bubble gum. Okay, that last one sounds kind of dope. He gave a slight grin, fangs his both showing, but not in a threatening way. Maybe that's something your little Toadile could tinker with, if you trust him to tweak the suggestion. Though I imagine he'd ask for your permission this time. And leaned in just a bit more, voice more curious than before. Out of all the forms that he's mimicked since the hypnosis, which one made you feel the safest? Not strongest or most powerful, but the one where you felt completely and totally protected. Alright, guys. I said, well, to be honest, I feel safe with all of them since I know he won't turn against me. I remember even testing it. There was one time where I told him to mimic an aggressive dragon just to see if the hypnosis completely worked, And what do you know? Even as an aggressive dragon, he never thought about attacking me once. He just sat there and loved on me like he wasn't any different. Sarkar's massive body relaxed further, cool settling gently around the clearing like living walls of protective muscle. His glowing eyes soft and filled with admiration and quiet respect. Now that, he said, his voice low and reverent, is what true loyalty looks like. He paused a moment, flickering his tongue out briefly as if tasting the emotion in the air, to resist an instinct, or a curse, so strong that it once made him attack you without thinking, and now even in a form built for aggression, he just shows love. A soul-impressed hiss escapes him. That bond you share, it's more powerful than magic. He tilted his head slightly. Tell me, when he was that dragon, how did he show you that love? I imagine it wasn't easy depending on how big or dangerous he looked. Did he cuddle up beside you? Speak softly? Was it like the old Rexy, trapped in a fearsome body? Scarecrow didn't ask out of nosiness. His eyes showed genuine curiosity, almost like he wanted to understand how that kind of bond worked on a deep level. He just acted like his old self. I think the only main difference was that he became more protective and even defensive over me because of the heightened aggression. But he never took it out on me or anything. He just tried to be gentle and caring. Sarkar's long, elegant form shifted slightly as he listened, clearly touched by your words. His glowing eyes closed briefly, and when he opened them again, a warmth radiated through his expression, kind of deep, soulful admiration. Gentle, even while built for destruction, he murmured, voice like a soft wind rustling the tall grass. That says more about his heart than anything else ever could. He lowered his head a little closer, not threateningly, but almost reverently, until his snout hovered near your level, huge and quiet and still. He didn't just break a curse. You rebuilt trust in a place where most would expect only fear. Creatures don't fake gentleness when they're aggressive by design. That means your love anchored him. After a brief pause, Circle let a low, reflective hum. You know, if someone told me a hypnotized dinosaur who could mimic anything was the safest companion for a human, I'd have thought they were delusional. He gave a short, amused exhale. But after everything you shared, I think they might be the luckiest human alive. He pulled back slowly, then looked at you again with a sincere trust. Has Rexy ever saved you while in one of those mimic forms? Like, fought for you or shielded you while still under that hypnosis? Yes. He's very protective, just like his normal self. Even in that mimic form. Period. It doesn't even matter what creature I say. He could be mimicking a tiny hummingbird, and I'm sure he would try his darndest to protect me. Sarkar's massive core would gently ripple with quiet amazement as he listened, a faint shimmer flickering across his scales like starlight catching a ripple of water, subtle, but clearly a sign of deep emotion. That is beautiful, he said, his voice hushed, a creature shaped by hypnosis, transformed into anything, even something as fragile as a hummingbird, and still his soul chooses to protect you. That's no spell, that's loyalty beyond reason. He lifted his head slowly, looking thoughtful. It's rare, he adds softly, to meet someone who brings out that kind of devotion, not through force, but through love. He glanced at you with his glowing eyes. You didn't just survive what Trico tried to do. You turned it into a bond stronger than the curse itself. Even magic had to bend to the heart you gave him. A moment passed, and then he asked gently, "Do you ever tell Rexy how proud you are of him? I imagine Harry knows you love him, but proud like that, especially from someone who stood by him through his darkest forms, that can mean everything to a heart like his." I'm always nice to him, even if I don't say anything like that often. I think just hearing him say that I still love him makes him so happy. Period. One of the things I notice that he used to do, if he did snap out of his aggressive state, would be that he would always be guilty or upset about what he did. He genuinely feel bad for trying to hurt me because he still cared about me deep down. He could just couldn't control himself because of the curse. Circle's eyes dimmed with deep empathy, and his massive form lowered slightly, as if bowing his head out of quiet respect. His voice came gently, like a slow breeze through leaves. That kind of guilt. It means his heart never truly left you, not even when the curse tried to twist it. He curled his tail loosely behind him. Some creatures lose themselves entirely under magic like that, but not Rexy. He fought, even if it didn't always show, and the fact that he felt guilty afterward, that's proof. He pauses, then Sarkar gives a slow smile. You may not say you're proud of him out loud often, but your love speaks louder. Still, I think if you ever did tell him how proud you are, for holding on, for fighting through the curse, for still choosing love even when everything inside him screamed otherwise, it'd probably mean more to you than you know. He added with more than his tone, some souls just need to hear they did good, even after all the pain, especially from the one they never wanted to hurt. Then quieter still, you're good for him, you know. You remind him who he really is, even when the rest of the world, or even his own mind, tries to tell him otherwise. Yeah, it always hasn't been good. Though, there was one time when I was still a tiny raptor where he became aggressive and I couldn't calm him down. And he physically chased me out of my own house. Then, a few hours later, this family of found me crying in the grass where they took care of me for a while, even letting me spend the night with them. Let's see. Sarkar's eyes widened slightly, a low, sorrowful rumble vibrating in his chest as he listened. The idea of a tiny version of you, alone, scared, and crying in the grass, clearly struck a chord deep in his being. He shifted his massive core closer, but remained careful not to get too close. You didn't deserve that. Not even for a second, he said softly. You were cursed, small, frightened, and all you wanted was to love and be loved in return. For him to chase you out like that? Sarkar's voice trembled faintly with restrained anger. Even if it wasn't truly him, that must have broken your heart. He looked toward the sky for a moment before continuing. But those totodiles, crocodiles, and even the mighty fur alligators, they knew. They saw you hurting and chose to love you when you needed it most. Then the golden eyes locked with yours, his tone now filled with steady warmth. That night you spent with them, remember it, because even when Retsy's mind failed you, the world didn't. It still sent others to hold you up, and that means something. He paused thoughtfully, then added, if those Pokemon took you in and cared for you, it tells me your heart must have cut theirs too. You have a way of doing that, don't you? A small smile formed in the corner of his mouth. Even dragons, serpents, and dinosaurs can't help but love you once they see who you really are. Then gently he asked, do you still think about that night with them? About how they helped you heal, even if just a little? Give me a second.